The ground beneath California trembled as NASA made a startling announcement. A massive earthquake had struck the state's fault lines and left them cracked and vulnerable. The news sent shockwaves across the nation as people waited with bated breath to see what would happen next. Would this be the end of life as we know it in the Golden State, or just the beginning of something even more catastrophic? Let's find out in today's video, shall we? Have you ever heard of the fault that runs across the San Andreas region? If you are from California or have ever visited the Golden State, the chances are good that you have encountered the term before. But do you have a clear understanding of what it is and why it is of such critical importance? The San Andreas Fault can be traced back over 1,200 kilometers, which is about 750 miles, throughout the state of California. Near the boundary between the two plates, this location is where the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate meet and grind against one another. On the surface of the Earth's liquid mantle are what are termed tectonic plates, which are massive slabs of rock that gently move around. The fact that the San Andreas Fault has been the epicenter of some of the largest and most destructive earthquakes in the history of the U.S. is one of the things that gives it its allure and also makes it a little bit risky. When the enormous pressure that is built up by the tectonic plates rubbing against one another is suddenly released, the result is an earthquake. The most recent big earthquake that occurred on the San Andreas Fault, which took place in 1906, caused severe damage to San Francisco and the area surrounding it. However, the San Andreas Fault is not simply a possible risk, it is also a wonder of modern science. Geologists and other scientists do study faults to improve their understanding of earthquakes and their ability to anticipate them. In addition, scientists make use of the fissure to gain a better understanding of the motion and development of the Earth's tectonic plates for millions of years. When you are in California and you feel the ground shaking beneath your feet, you are standing on the San Andreas Fault, one of the most fascinating and important geological features in the world. If you continue to feel the ground shaking in California, you will continue to be on the San Andreas Fault. The director of the Southern California Earthquake Center, Thomas Jordan, recently made a statement that should have sent chills down the spines of every Californian. The San Andreas Fault appears to be in a critical state, and as such, a large earthquake is imminent. The warning that the southern part of the fault looks like it's locked, loaded, and ready to go is alarming, but the restatement of the seismic threat to Californians is not. Why would a respected seismologist make such alarming claims, and what could motivate them? The lack of a major earthquake in the southern part of the San Andreas Fault system since 1857 means that strains have not been significantly relieved in that area. The boundary between the North American and Pacific tectonic plates is roughly characterized by several fault systems, the San Andreas Fault being just one of them. The San Andreas is, in other words, a mountain range. Both the Pacific and North American plates can be said to be migrating in a direction that is essentially northerly, but the Pacific plate is doing so at a far faster rate. As a result, stresses between the plates continue to increase over time. In 1906, a 7.8 magnitude catastrophe ruptured the San Francisco Bay Area, and in 1989, a 6.9 magnitude earthquake rocked Northern California, releasing some of the pent-up tensions. Both of those things happened in the Golden State. However, given the lack of similar events along the southern San Andreas Fault, the 1994 Northridge event was associated with a nearby but separate fault system. It has been hypothesized that a major earthquake is imminent, and given the amount of stress that may have accumulated, that it will be the big one when it does occur. However, such catastrophic events have never taken place along the San Andreas Fault in Northern California. The Northridge earthquake of 1994 was linked to a nearby but unrelated quake. All things considered, the answers to these questions will at least satisfy Californians. In the film, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake occurs along the San Andreas Fault. Large earthquakes of this magnitude often only occur in regions where one tectonic plate is being pushed beneath another. A process is known as subduction. Subduction is occurring in many places around the world, including Chile and Japan. In contrast to other states, California has its unique tectonic activity. At present, a sliding motion is taking place between two plates. Therefore, the most up-to-date predictions set the maximum possible earthquake magnitude along the San Andreas Fault system at 8, even though only a 7% probability estimate estimates that such an event could occur in Southern California in the next 30 years. However, there is a 75% chance of an event with a magnitude of 7 occurring during the same period. The magnitude differences may be small, but they represent a large disparity in the quantity of energy that would be released. The energy released by an event of magnitude 9 would be 32 times that of the event of magnitude 8, while the energy released by an event of magnitude 9 would be 1,000 times that of an event of magnitude 7. Whether the earthquake is magnitude 7 or 8, destruction is guaranteed. Nonetheless, the unlikely sequence of events is depicted in the film. The San Andreas Fault, for example, does not pass beneath any body of water. Thus, earthquakes along it cannot displace enough water to trigger a tsunami. The creation of a massive chasm is another feature that fits in the world of fiction, as the tectonic plates are sliding relative to one another and not away from each other. In the aftermath of the catastrophic earthquake that occurred in Turkey and Syria and was responsible for the deaths of an estimated 11,000 people, scientists from all over the world will be coming to the disaster zone to learn more about the impact that a similar earthquake could have on the San Andreas Fault. The East Anatolian Fault, which is located in Turkey and was the epicenter of the earthquake that occurred there, shares many characteristics with the San Andreas Fault, which is located in California and bisects the state. As a result, this fault is an important one for seismologists to research to get insight into when the next big one will occur in California. It has been hypothesized for quite some time that the San Andreas Fault will soon be the source of a devastating earthquake. Nevertheless, the ability of experts to accurately forecast the timing of earthquakes remains limited. Brian Olson, a geologist and earthquake hazard expert based in California, tweeted that, in the coming days, weeks, geologists from California and everywhere else will arrive in southern Turkey to document, measure, and study the East Anatolian Fault Zone and the effects of these major earthquakes. Olson drew attention to the fact that the San Andreas Fault and the East Anatolian Fault share many similarities. According to a tweet by Olson, both of these faults are strike-slip faults that are part of a major plate boundary. Both have historically generated 7.8 to 7.9 earthquakes, he noted, referring to the terrible earthquake of 7.9 magnitudes that struck San Francisco in 1906 and killed 3,000 people, as well as the equally powerful earthquake that devastated Fort Tejon in California in 1857. The Loma Prieta earthquake, which occurred in the San Francisco Bay Area in 1989 and had a magnitude of 6.9, was similarly caused by the San Andreas Fault and was responsible for the deaths of 63 people. Scientists can have a better understanding of how a big one, which refers to an earthquake of comparable magnitude along the San Andreas Fault in California, might affect the region if they analyze the effects of the earthquake that occurred in Turkey. The earthquake, with a magnitude of 7.8, struck in the early hours of Monday morning, bringing the destruction of thousands of buildings in Turkey and Syria. According to projections made by the World Health Organization, the number of fatalities could reach over 20,000 in the days to come. According to Joanna Four Walker, head of the Institute for Risk and Disaster Reduction at University College London, who spoke with the BBC, of the deadliest earthquakes in any given year, only 2 in the last 10 years have been of equivalent magnitude and 4 in the previous 10 years. Olson issued a word of caution, stating that the discoveries made as a result of the earthquake would not assist in predicting earthquakes along the San Andreas Fault. Earthquake timing is influenced by the unique forces associated with the tectonic plates that are moving on either side of the fault. What we can glean from this earthquake, on the other hand, is the extent to which the fault zone in question moves and tears the surface. A significant shaking can also teach us about the consequences that it has on the Earth, bedrock slopes, coastal areas, infrastructure, and other locations. The primary shock that was felt in Turkey was a magnitude 7.8, which is the same magnitude as has been modeled for a significant earthquake on the southern San Andreas. The earthquake's epicenter was located in the Kahramanmaraş province of Turkey's southeast, although its effects were felt as far away as Cairo, which is approximately 1,000 miles to the southeast. The movement of the 2 tectonic plates that meet at the fault line is what caused the earthquake. In this particular instance, the Arabian plate moved northwards against the Anatolian plate, which caused the Anatolian plate to rupture. The magnitude of an earthquake can be determined by the amount of damage it causes. There will be light damage to buildings and other structures below magnitudes of 5.5 to 6, while between magnitudes 6.1 and 7.9, there may be significant quantities of damage in highly populated places. Communities located close to the epicenter may be completely wiped out by earthquakes with magnitudes of 8 or higher. The stronger the earthquake, the more damage that is done to buildings and infrastructure, and the more people are killed as a result of the earthquake. A magnitude of between 9.4 and 9.6 was registered for the earthquake that happened in Chile in 1960. It was the strongest earthquake that has ever been documented. The knowledge we get from earthquakes in one location can be applied to better predict the effects of quakes in another location. To be more specific, the similarities between the faults in Turkey and those in California make it more crucial to get knowledge of these earthquakes to be better prepared for the future, as stated in a tweet by Olson. Because of the significant amount of pressure that is built up between the static plates of the San Andreas fault, specialists who watch the seismic activity in the region are concerned that California could be on the verge of experiencing a massive earthquake, sometimes known as the Big One. It is estimated that a quake of this magnitude will occur somewhere between once every 100 and once every 220 years. Rick Astor, a professor of geophysics at Colorado State University and the department head at that institution, was quoted in a previous issue of Newsweek as saying, "There are many plausible scenarios for big earthquakes up and down the San Andreas fault system, including ones that would be highly disruptive in California. Large earthquakes on the San Andreas fault system are a geological certainty. Nevertheless, the occurrence of individual earthquakes over years to millennia is completely unpredictable. It is therefore possible to forecast earthquakes probabilistically. Nevertheless, at this moment, it is not possible to predict the size, time, or location of individual earthquakes. In the aftermath of the earthquake that struck Turkey, it is estimated that 11,342 buildings were destroyed, with the Turkish government's disaster management agency confirming 5,775 of those losses. In 2008, Lucy Jones, a seismologist of the United States Geological Survey, devised the shakeout scenario, which provided an assessment of the possible damage caused by an earthquake with a magnitude 7.8 along the San Andreas Fault. In the aftermath of such an earthquake, their projections anticipated that there would be at least 2,000 fatalities, 50,000 injuries, and $200 billion in economic damages. They also predicted that any aftershocks that occurred in the following months would increase the amount of damage caused. In addition, it is anticipated that fires started as a direct result of the earthquake will result in an additional $100 billion in damages, and that landslides will result in an addition $1 billion in damages. Researchers may be able to plan more effectively and even fortify susceptible places before the big one arrives by understanding how the earthquake in Turkey resulted in damage and deaths. That's all for the video today. We will be right back with more. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you watching.